Hi, today I'm going to go through a few things that I use to help research my gold locations and for my relic locations. There's a few sort of different books and little mediums that I use, whether it's online government sort of information or you've got these gold maps and books specifically designed for us prospectors. But I'm just going to go through a few of those details with you today. Is these specific books designed for prospectors and people looking for gold. There's lots of books by John Tully and Doug Stone, and also the other main one that gold prospectors use and that you find at a lot of prospecting stores and at our store Lucky Strike Gold. All this stuff is available at Lucky Strike Gold as well. But these Stray Places. Now these Stray Places books has a little bit more information, more than just maps. But it's very helpful and it gives you a few good clues. I always like to start, if I'm choosing a new location, to first off, once I have physically chosen, say we're going to Maryborough or you're going to Bendigo or wherever the location is that you decided to choose, I try and find a gold map, whether it's in these Doug Stone gold books, looking for a few of the areas that are around where I've chosen. So whether it's, as I said, whether it's around Bendigo or Maryborough or wherever you've chosen, the first thing I do is go out and I get a couple of books. So I'd get this book like this Maryborough one, and then I start flicking through to see what is available and sort of what sort of production was happening on a few of these gullies. And all these old gold books, they generally give a good indication. They're not perfect, they're not 100% accurate, they're probably not even 75% accurate, but they're better than nothing, and they've done all the hard work of actually giving you the details of where gold workings are and where people have already found and metal detected for gold. So it's just a real big head start, but it gives you ideas of the lines of the reefs and where the surfaced areas are and where all the mines and the mine dumps and things like that. So using these books is a really good way to first narrow in your location. So I'd say, so if we're doing Maryborough, we've chosen Maryborough, we're then getting to our John Tully book. This is just rough enough on the Havelock map. The green here is our land that we're allowed to prospect on, the white being the private property, which you need permission, so you can't just go prospect on there as you like. But I then go through looking at these yellow areas on these John Tully maps and the red areas on the Doug Stone, but it shows you where they've worked the gullies and the creeks. So I just try to look through here and I'll pick a couple of gullies that I think are going to be accessible with my car and where I'm staying, and that moves me on to my next spot. So the next thing I'm going to go through with you guys is going to be geology maps. Now with geology maps, so we've gone through and looked at our goldfield maps. We know a name of a couple of the gullies. We've got a good geographic location where we're going to be going. I then go online to what is called GeoVic for people in Victoria. There's also online mapping tools and instruments for all the other states in Australia and also for overseas. So I go onto this GeoVic, and GeoVic just allows me to sign up with a free account and log in and see old gold workings, old geological maps and all the data that the government has collated over the last century. So I moved from these goldfield maps, which are specific for prospecting, which put me in a good general area. Then I go look for some more harder data on the GeoVic online. Now with this, you can look up everything from roads to railways to the shallow river leads to the deep river leads, mines, production totals. There's so much information you can get off these sorts of things, but one real important thing that I like to get off geological maps in particular is just to see where the different boundaries of the different type of geological rocks are. They're called contact zones. I find they're really important and seem to have a lot of mineralization and a lot of gold production seems to happen in those areas. So that's the areas that I really like to concentrate on. Now, besides we've got the gold maps, we're done GeoVic. Now once I've sort of really nailed down, we've got production data, so we know that we've already picked our location on the map, we've got information about where people have found gold nuggets and where the mines and stuff are before, and then we've got production totals and where the contact zones of all this different geology is, the next thing I want to do is read up and start looking into newspaper articles. So I go onto Trove, which is in the National Library of Australia, but no matter where you are, what state, what country you're in, there is always usually online resources. If not at your local public library or your local state library, will have access to your newspapers basically back to the day they began. So once again, if we use Maryborough as an example, we go into this Chinaman's Flat page, there's this little gully called O'Brien's Gully. I would then be going on to Trove, typing in O'Brien's Gully and doing my best to try and find out what the miners, the journalists and the government were saying, what the general sort of vibe and the conversation amongst the towns were about what productive areas, and see whether the O'Brien's Gully pops up in any of those old newspaper articles and what the people were saying about it, whether it tapered out the gold production, whether there was a better option when everybody left the area or whatnot. You can really get some really specific information by looking up old newspaper articles, which I find super, super helpful. But that's the majority of it all. It's really just trying to use these gold maps, trying to use the geological maps, trying to use Trove. All that is just narrowing down and getting closer and closer to the location where you think the gold is going to be before you even set foot on the ground, because getting all that stuff organized before you actually get there, you're not just pointing randomly on one map and going, oh, I think somebody that I knew said to go find gold in Maryborough. Well, there's a lot more specifics, and you really need to narrow it a lot more down to that. You want to be specifics of the gully, what side of the gully, what side of the creek, whether it was the top, the bottom, the middle half of the creek. Like, you can find out all that information so you're not searching a giant area of square kilometers. You can narrow that down to, you want to be in a 50-meter radius sort of, and knowing that's where you're going to spend your day prospecting. And I can be the guiltiest of everybody to get to a location and do all this hard work researching and then just walk around not paying attention or thinking that I need to be somewhere else, when I just need to have a little bit of confidence in what I've already looked up and do the hard work and prospect properly, and that always seems to get me better results in an area. So I just thought I'd let everybody know a little bit into what I use to research these areas and how I'm sort of coming across it, because I'm in the same boat as everybody else. You don't always have old prospectors or people telling you good locations. So I find that with gold detecting in particular, that most of the work is done at home. Most of the work is done researching, looking at geology maps and things like that. So it's just a little tip that I think gives people a head start, and I'm constantly working on myself, because you can always improve and you can always get more information, or even just getting better ideas. You can look at the same information 6 months on and it tells you different things, or you understand it better, or you get a different idea. So to constantly be reading and looking up maps and studying different geological attributes of your local gold field really will pay off. So thanks very much for tuning in today, guys. If you actually want to see me out prospecting, you can suss out last week's video. I actually got lucky and found a little nugget on my first target, which is always a pleasure. But there's plenty of videos finding relics, gold, using the high banker and whatnot. So I'd like to thank everybody who's shown their support. Goldmac's now over 700 subscribers, which is really amazing, and it's really appreciated. So thanks again for everybody who contributes and adds to all the channel and the support. It's much appreciated. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Cheers.